Starting its journey in 1910, Datsun joined Nissan in 1935. The company, which produced cheap and boring copies of the British Austin brand until the 1960s, changed its vision and turned to high-performance sports cars. How did Nissan produce the Datsun 240Z, which is faster and much more economical than the Porsche and Jaguar models? How did the Datsun 240Z, the world's best-selling sports cars, proving that sports cars can be produced at an economical price, change sports car history? The story of Datsun and Nissan begins. The automobile industry, which began to spread in the early 1900s, was an industrial revolution. Seeing the great potential in the industry and believing that Japan should participate in this revolution, the engineer Hashimoto established the Kachinki Motor Car Workshop in Tokyo in 1910. Although it's a small workshop with 16 employees, they dream of selling their cars to the world in the future. After 3 years of work, the workshop succeeds in producing the first car. It was a 10 horsepower vehicle with a small 2-cylinder engine. The vehicle is named DAT, which is the initial of the surnames of the 3 investors. In 1918, the name of the company was changed to DAT Motor Car Company. In those years, cars in Japan were too expensive for the common people. Wanting to offer a useful, inexpensive car for the Japanese public, the company develops a new prototype in the same year. DAT Gorham appears with a 3-wheeled 880cc 5 HP engine. In 1922, the 4-wheeled version of the model also rolled off the production line. Since the automobile market in the country is very small, the company, which wants to survive financially, starts to produce small trucks for the Japanese army from 1918. Most parts of the pickup truck are imported from America. The company continues to manufacture light pickup trucks and small cars in 1920s. In 1930, the Japanese government, which wanted the development of the automobile industry and the spread of automobiles among the people, decided to support manufacturers for vehicles that could be small economic people's cars. The Japanese government explains that vehicles up to 500cc will not require a driver's license and will be taxed at a lower rate. The company begins work on a new 495cc smaller model the same year. The vehicle with a 4-cylinder 10 horsepower engine weighed 400 kilograms. The model is named Datsun 10, meaning Datsun, because it is smaller than the first vehicle produced. This name is changed to Datsun as its last word means loser in Japanese. In 1931, only 20 units were sold. A year later, 150 units were sold. In 1932, the name of the model was changed to Datsun Type 11. The vehicle had the same engine displacement and exterior dimensions as the British Austin 7 model. For this reason, there were criticisms that the model was a copy. Audi's founder, Herbert Austin, exports the Type 11 to England in 1935 and examines whether the model is a replica of his models or not. No complaints from Austin that the vehicle is a duplicate. In 1933, the Japanese government increased the displacement by 750cc for tax advantages. In the same year, the Type 11's engine was replaced with a 750cc buttonhole engine and the new model was put on the market as the Datsun Type 12. The company sells 150 Type 12 units. The company was still producing in very low quantities. Having financial difficulties, the company merged with Tobata Casting in 1931. Tobata was part of the Nihon Sankyo Company, which did business in many fields such as mining and construction. The company's abbreviated name on the Tokyo Stock Exchange was Nissan. Datsun eventually joins Nissan and in 1934, the company is renamed Nissan Motor Company. Datsun, who became economically stronger within Nissan, established a real production line a year later, taking forced production line as an example. The Datsun Type 15 comes off the renewed production line in 1936. Although the name of the company is changed, the name Datsun continues to be used in the models. Nissan ramps up production capacity and the Datsun Type 15 becomes Japan's first production car. 8,600 vehicles produced in 2 years are exported to Australia and New Zealand. All goes well for Nissan, but in 1937, Japan goes to war with China. When the Japanese government restricted automobile production, the company concentrated on producing trucks for the Japanese army. After the Second World War, Nissan returns to automobile production. Production begins with a small and economical model as before the war. In 1947, the Datsun DA comes off the production line. The design of the two-door 750cc vehicle was pre-war. When the company was not successful with this model, it decided to develop a model with a more modern design. April again follows the British Austin models and chooses Austin's Devon and Somerset models. In 1948, Datsun DB came off the production line, and in the following few years, the company renews the model with minor changes. However, Nissan, which cannot exceed the 758cc engine, has a hard time developing automobile technology. In 1952, it was decided to cooperate with a European manufacturer to develop automobile and engine technologies. In the same year, Nissan makes a cooperation agreement with the British company Austin, and together with the technology transfer, the license of the Austin A40 model is purchased. In 1952, Nissan begins the assembly of the Austin A40 with parts imported from England. The model with 1.2-liter 42 horsepower engine was economical and fuel efficient. Launched under the Austin brand name, the vehicle sells 2,000 units in 3 years. With the technology transfer, Nissan, which has Austin patent rights, works on developing its own engine. The company begins to work on producing sports cars from the early 1950s. In 1952, the pre-war Datsun DC-3 was produced. The vehicle with the 860cc 20 HP engine was not a speed machine, but it was a start for Nissan in this area. The vehicle sells only 50 units. In the early 1950s, Nissan, which couldn't sell enough cars, started to experience a financial crisis when the Japanese government brought regulation on workers' wages. In 1953, the American Army, which was armed in Japan during the Korean War, orders Nissan a large number of jeeps. The company, which produced jeeps for the American Army during the war, recovered economically. In 1955, the Austin A50, with a new 1.5-liter engine, all parts manufactured by Nissan, was introduced to the market. The company sells 21,000 A40s until 1959. The company, which has been developing its own engine and automobile technology for a long time, decides to introduce a model of its own design to the market. In the early 1950s, the Japanese government provided tax subsidies to manufacturers for a model that could be a cheap and fuel-efficient public car. The people's car should have a maximum engine of 1 liter. It had to be durable enough to run on rough and unpaved Japanese roads and could reach speeds of 100 km per hour. Producing the people's cars was very important to Japanese manufacturers. In 1955, Toyota introduced the inexpensive and fuel-efficient Toyota Crown. In the same year, the company working on such a model and wanting to compete with Toyota Crown pulls the Datsun 110 model off the production line. Although the design of the vehicle, which has an 860cc 25 HP engine, was inspired by the Austin models, it had enough details that had a distinctly Japanese character. The vehicle, which was launched as a sedan and a hatchback, soon became successful. Competing in the Australian Rally in 1958, Datsun won the race in the 1000cc category, where it competed with the 110 Toyota Crown. The car becomes the first Japanese car to achieve success in international rallies. This success allows the brand to spread its name around the world. Datsun, who participated in the imported automobile fair in America in the same year, attracts great attention. Having managed to attract the attention of the world, Nissan turns its sights to the global market, and the first target is America, where the automobile market is growing rapidly. In the country where gasoline prices were rising, consumers started to prefer small economic and fuel-saving cars instead of big cars with powerful engines. The company entered the American market in 1959 with the Datsun 113, a more developed version of the Datsun 110. In the American market, it is sold under the name of the last Bluebird 113, which means Bluebird. The economical, fuel-efficient, durable quality model rapidly increases its success in the domestic and American markets. In 1962, to meet the rising demand, the company established a new factory in Japan. In the same year, the first production plant outside of Japan opens in Mexico. In 1963, while 200,000 Datsun 110 series came off the production line, 100,000 units were exported abroad. In the same year, Nissan petrol begins to be exported to America. The company continues its policy of selling pickups and pickup trucks under the Nissan name while bringing cars to the market under the Datsun. In 1959, the sports version of Nissan Bluebird, which wanted to try another sports car, also puts the Datsun S211 on sale. With a 1.2-liter 47 horsepower engine, the car becomes the first Datsun sports model exported to America. However, 20 vehicles sold are a complete disappointment. As 230 models were later put on the market, they couldn't sell more than 530 units. Nissan sports car attempts fail again and again. The company, which wants to increase its model diversity, works on a new model. In 1966, the Datsun B10 comes off the production line. The two-door model, with a 1-liter engine, competes in the same class with the Toyota Corolla and Subaru 1000, which were introduced in the same year. Although sales were increasing, they were not sufficient. Yutaka Katayama, who managed the American branch of the company, was not satisfied with this situation. The vehicles brought to the market were slow, uncomfortable, and boring models. Knowing the Americans well, Katayama knew very well what kind of model they should produce. We should not sell a vehicle with a hollow body to our customers, saying that we must sell driving pleasure and performance to them. Katayama instructs the design team to design a new model with this vision. The result is the Datsun 510 model. The maximum speed of the vehicle with a 1.6-liter 96 horsepower engine was 170 km per hour. The vehicle, which offers comfort and high performance at an economical price with independent suspension and disc brakes, is known as the poor man's BMW. The model is the first step of the high-performance sport Datsun models. Katayama's vision marked a turning point in the company when Nissan stopped producing cheap copies of British cars and directed them to cars that offered high performance and driving pleasure. Wanting to take this new vision even further, the company decides to develop a high-performance sports cars like the Jaguar and Porsche. In 1966, Toyota launched the 2000 GT using a Yamaha engine. However, it was unsuccessful due to its high price. Nissan didn't want to do it at the same time either. The model to be developed had to be as economical as the middle class could afford. As a result of these efforts, the legendary Datsun 240Z came off the production line in 1969. Inspired by the Jaguar E-Type, the vehicle had a 2.4-liter 150 horsepower engine and could reach a speed of 201 km per hour. It could go from 0 to 100 in 7.8 seconds. Equipped with modern engineering with a stylish design, the 240Z is very economical compared to other sports cars, making a big impact in the market. The model was the same price as both the GBCT, which was introduced to the market 5 years ago, produced by British BMC. However, the 240Z had a much more modern look. The 240Z, which could beat the Porsche 911 Jaguar E-Type models in drag races, had a much more economical price compared to them. American manufacturers, who still produce big and muscular sports cars like the Camaro and Mustang, cannot develop a model that can compete with the Datsun 240Z. The waiting list for the vehicle with a big impact on the market stretched to 6 months. In the first year, 16,215 units of 240Z are sold. It increases its shooting with 33 in the second year and 46,000 in the following year. Katayama knew that racing was the best way to introduce the 240Z to the world. The 240Z competed in ESD-HD, takes first place in 1970 and 1971. When consumers see the 240Z eat a Porsche 911, they begin to question why they would pay more for a Porsche 911. Manufacturers such as Jaguar, BMW, Porsche and Alfa Romeo export a limited number of sports cars, while the Datsun 240Z becomes the best-selling sports car in the world with its success. More than 1 million Datsun 240Z are sold in the global market during 10 years. Sports cars at an economical price changed all perception and history of sports cars by proving that one can be produced. During the Second World War, the company decided to sell the cars under the name Datsun because the Nissan name was involved in bad events during the workers' actions that took 100 days to produce trucks under the name Nissan and resulted in deaths. The company which wanted to gather all its products under the roof of Nissan, decided that the bad reputation was forgotten and started to sell cars under the name Nissan in 1981. The company spends $500 million on advertising campaigns to promote the Nissan name to its customer base.